This is the harsh truth about WWI trenches. Boring history for sleep. Tonight, we drift back to a time when the Earth itself became a shelter and also a prison. The trenches of the First World War stretch before us like long scars across the land, filled with mud, silence, and the heavy breath of waiting men. Here on Mythoria, we move slowly through history as though through a dream, unraveling the weight of the past in a way that feels gentle, reflective, and calm. Imagine the damp wooden planks beneath your feet, the faint scent of smoke and soil, the distant echo of thunder that never truly fades. As you listen, allow each word to arrive like a soft step in the dark, leading you deeper into rest. The war was harsh, but tonight we hold its story lightly, as if cradling a fading lantern. Now, let us begin. The harsh truth about WWI trenches. The harsh truth about WWI trenches. A silent dawn of a no-man's land. In the stillness of morning, you find yourself gazing across a barren strip of earth called no man's land. The world seems quiet, yet beneath the silence lives a shadow of fear. Here, the war is not distant. It breathes just beyond the barbed wire. You stand at the fire step in the pale side of morning, and the world holds its breath with you. The trench is a narrow hallway of earth and wood, a dim corridor where whispers and boot scrapes sound larger than they are. Ahead lies no man's land, scarred earth, wire that glints like frost, shattered trees that point like broken fingers toward a colorless sky. You listen to the soft clink of a canteen, the private cough suppressed behind a sleeve, the quiet exchange of passwords at the traverse. Dawn in the trenches is a ritual. Stand to, rifles checked, eyes sore from night watch, senses tuned to a horizon that might bloom with danger. The smell is familiar, wet soil, damp hessian, old smoke, a trace of disinfectant soaked into bandages. You notice the duckboards beneath your boots, the sandbag slumped from last night's rain, the periscope ready to lift your gaze without lifting your head. You think of how this line of earth holds a strange promise, protection and entrapment at once. Wind moves the wire, and it sings lightly like a harp that has forgotten its song. The map in your mind is simple. Here is safety of a kind. There is exposure and risk. Your heart measures distance in breaths. A runner trots past, a note pinned in oilskin against the early mist. Somewhere to your left, a cook tent steams thin tea. Somewhere to your right, a corporal counts the rum ration, small courage for clammy nerves. You practice the rhythm of patience. Look, breathe, listen, because the earth asks for attention more than bravery. The sky grows a little brighter. The mud seems to wake, heavy and alive. You think about letters in your pocket, words from a quieter room, a different table, a door that closes softly. The trench keeps its own time, slow and grinding, and this morning hour is both lullaby and alarm. You ask yourself if peace can exist inside a heartbeat when the land ahead has forgotten peace. And as the sun edges higher, you wonder, will this dawn remain gentle? Or is it a curtain rising on something your mind is not yet ready to name? Digging into the earth. You step into the trenches, carved deep into the soil like wounds across the land. Soldiers live within mud walls, surrounded by wooden planks, sandbags, and the damp smell of soil. The earth is both a shield and a prison. The trench is a scar cut into clay, timbered and shored like a careful wound, and you live inside it as though inside a second skin. Spades bit this place into being, shovels wrote its grammar, parapet, parados, traverse, sap. You trace the timber slats with your fingers and feel the damp memory of rain. You learn the physics of survival. Keep low, keep dry if you can, keep moving when you must. A trench is a compromise between sky and soil, a negotiation with danger where the earth agrees to cover you if you agree to surrender the horizon. You pass by a dugout wall chalked with a private joke, a lucky charm sketched in haste. The sandbags sag like tired shoulders, stitched tight with twine, patched and repatched because fabric is easier to mend than flesh. A sapper team rattles by with tools, faces streaked with mud, eyes focused on inches and angles. You hear the soft arithmetic of measurement. So many feet to the next traverse, so many inches to make the parapet safe. The trench is not only a shelter, it is an organism that needs tending. Drainage channels clogged by last night's downpour must be cleaned. Duck boards must be relaid to keep feet above the sucking clay. Firing steps must be checked for loose planks. You adopt the lore of this place. Hang socks with space between them so the lice have fewer shadows. Keep your mess tin on a peg. Wrap a scarf around your mouth when the wind swings wrong. The language here is part soil, part steel. Bayonets are sheathed near the ready. Rifles lean under oilskin. A steel helmet rests like a small, hard moon on a crate. You feel the steadiness of routine. Sandbag, check, sweep, watch. It slows your breathing and gives shape to the unshapeable. You accept the paradox that working the earth brings you closer to the life you hope to reclaim. And as you set another plank and tamp another wall, you wonder, how deep must you dig to be safe? And how deep before you begin to forget the feel of open fields? The endless mud and rain. Rain falls and never seems to end, turning the ground into thick, heavy mud. Boots sink, uniforms cling, and every step feels like dragging chains. The trenches are not just homes, they are swamps of exhaustion. Rain is not just weather, it is a presence that settles into everything: cloth, skin, wood, thought. It drums on corrugated iron, seeps beneath the duck boards, turns steps into slides and slides into traps. You move with a careful gait, testing each plank, because beneath the neat geometry of boards, the mud waits, patient and hungry. The trench becomes a brown river that never flows and never ebbs, only deepens. Your boots, once sturdy, grow heavy as if each holds a secret stone. You learn the ritual of rescue: 2 hands under an elbow, a belt gripped, a heave synchronized with a whispered count. Mud does not let go easily. It loves with a jealous grip. Trenchfoot is a quiet predator, creeping in with numbness, tenderness, mottled skin. You dry your feet when you can, massage them as instructed, swap socks like trading small hopes. If the rain pauses, steam rises from the parapet like breath from an animal at rest. But mostly it does not pause. Blankets sour, letters wrinkle, matches refuse to spark. And yet there are songs, soft, stubborn songs hummed under a tarpaulin. There is humor, unpolished and kind. There's a practice of small comforts. A shared cigarette, a clean rag, a joke told twice because repetition makes it warmer. You watch water gather in tins and trickle along channels, and you feel the patience of mud as it works at your resolve. You keep your rifle oiled, your will oiled, your friendship oiled, because all things rust here when left unattended. The rain is impartial. It falls on both sides, touches both trenches, blurs the line between enemy and you. There is something equalizing in that, something almost forgiving. And as night draws a wet blanket over the wire and the boards, you ask, when the world is this sodden and heavy, can a single dry thought spark enough warmth to see you through to morning? The sound of shell fire. Suddenly, the silence cracks. Shells fall like thunder, shaking the ground, filling the air with smoke and dust. Fear lingers in every breath, yet soldiers learn to live with it, as if thunder itself has become ordinary. When the guns rest, your nerves learn the weight of silence, and in that weight, smaller lives appear. Rats scroll the parapet with brazen calm, sleek from grain stores and what no one wishes to name. They are not afraid of rank, medals, or fear. They answer only to food and dark. You shoo them, curse them, sometimes trap them, yet they return because waiting also attracts them. The quiet, the crumbs, the still borders. Lice make a winter of your skin, tiny teeth turning seams and collars into fields of irritation. You hold your shirt to a candle and listen for the soft snaps of unwanted tenants, a grim music that means a brief reprieve. Soap is a luxury. Hot water is a miracle. Cleanliness is a strategy you pursue like a campaign. But the deeper battle is with time itself. Hours stretch long and thin, twanging quietly in the dugout as you write. Mend, stare, remember. Waiting becomes a task. Pacing limited steps, playing cards on a crate, brewing tea that tastes like memory when sugar is scarce. A chaplain murmurs comfort in a corner. A medic checks bandages and inventories hope. You develop the craft of low conversation, the ethics of borrowing, the liturgy of sharing. You study faces because faces are calendars, who slept, who worries, who carries news from home. In the candle's cone of light, you read crumpled letters until the paper softens like cloth. The words from far away arrive damp and smudged. Still they carry the shape of a kitchen, the sound of a gate, the faint smell of bread. Waiting teaches you to count quietly. 10 breaths, 20, 100. The steady arithmetic of endurance. And as the trench settles into its nocturne and a rat's whiskers gleam for a heartbeat in the flame, you find yourself asking, does waiting store strength like a seed, or does it eat its strength like a moth? The sound of shell fire. Suddenly, the silence cracks. Shells fall like thunder, shaking the ground, filling the air with smoke and dust. Fear lingers in every breath, yet soldiers learn to live with it, as if thunder itself has become ordinary. The first round comes like a door slammed by an invisible hand, and the second like a door that will not stop slamming. Shellfire is a language without verbs. It shouts and erases. You drop into the dugout, helmet biting your brow, mouth tasting chalk. The air grows grainy. Dust turns the light to old paper. You feel the earth lift and settle, as though the trench were breathing too fast. Orders move along the line, steady, steady, past mouth to ear, firm as handrails in a dark stairwell. You learn the grammar of distances. A whine means it passes. A rising whistle means brace. A thud nearby means count the living. Sandbags split, threads spitting, and you press your back to the timber that has learned to bend but not break. There is a discipline to fear. Breathe into it. Give it shape. Let it move through and not take roost. Somewhere, a medic's voice is a metronome. Somewhere, a runner carries a message through a storm that does not care about messages. Then, as suddenly as it began, the barrage thins, like rain that cannot quite remember how to be rain. Your hearing returns in small circles, the drip in a corner, the soft cough, the word, "You all right?" with its local music. In the lull, you check your rifle, your friend's shoulder, the crack along a beam. You taste iron at the back of your throat, a reminder of the metal in the air and the metal in you. Courage here is not roaring. It is keeping the mind tethered to simple tasks. You take inventory, water, bandage, matches, letter, photograph. You are still here. The trench is still here. The map did not change, though the ground pretended to. And while the sky pretends indifference again, you wonder, when the next thunder comes, and it will, what quiet will you keep alive so you can still hear your own name? Dreams beyond the trenches. At night, you close your eyes and imagine home. Warm light, a mother's voice, a meadow untouched by war. In the trenches, hope is fragile, yet it carries you forward. You wonder what remains of the heart after war ends. Night stitches itself across the sky with slow, careful thread, and you feel the world soften at the edges. In the dugout, a candle makes a small republic of light where faces gather loosely. Someone hums a song from a field no shell has touched. Someone else folds a letter to a mother, a sister, a sweetheart, or a friend who understands without asking. You close your eyes and see a gate you used to latch, a lane you used to walk, a dog who will recognize your step before you turn the corner. Hope here is not grand. It is granular. Dry socks by the brazier, a biscuit unbroken, a joke about the mud that earns a tired laugh. You think of treaties and endings that have not yet found their signatures. You think of the word home and how it tastes. Warm, ordinary, miraculous. Sleep arrives like a truce offered by a patient negotiator, and in that truce, your mind wanders open country. You remember the names of months as if they were friends. You promise yourself small futures. A chair by a window, a book with a pressed leaf, steam on a kitchen pane. The trench is quieter now, its lungs slowed, its bones, timber and earth, easing into the dark. A sentry's silhouette watches a pale strip of land that has forgotten birdsong. Even so, the stars insist on their old appointments. You breathe with them, slow and faithful. History will one day measure this place with lines and dates, but tonight you measure it with heartbeats and the weight of a blanket over your knees. When morning comes, you will step again to the fire step, repeat the liturgy of watchfulness, and lend your strength to the living. But for this hour, your thoughts are allowed to be soft. And as you drift toward sleep, you ask a final, gentle question. When the war ends, and it must, how will you carry this fragile wisdom back across the threshold into the quiet rooms you miss? Letters that cross the front. In the dim glow of a candle, you take out a letter, edges softened by damp air, ink blurred by careless rain. Each word is a thread, pulling you gently toward home. You read the same lines over and over, as if repetition itself makes the voice clearer. The paper smells faintly of soap and kitchen smoke, scents the trench has forgotten. Writing back feels like breathing, pencil scratching against thin sheets, words chosen carefully, because each word carries weight across miles of silence. You fold it with care, slip it into an envelope, hand it to a runner. And in the quiet after, you wonder, can words alone hold back loneliness? The role of medicine and healing. Behind the firing line, a dugout glows with a different purpose. Here, hands move quickly over wounds, bandages soaked, morphine syringes ready. The air carries iodine, carbolic, and the muffled groans of men caught between life and loss. The medic's face is lined, his uniform smudged with blood and soil. He works without pause, stitching, whispering, sometimes just holding a shoulder until pain passes. Not all wounds are seen, some sit deep, hidden behind tired eyes. You sense the weight of invisible scars, heavier than any bandage can bear. And you ask yourself, can healing truly exist in a place that keeps creating wounds? Songs, humor, and survival. Night settles, and voices rise in fragile defiance. A song drifts along the trench, out of tune but steady, carried by men whose bodies ache, yet whose spirits refuse to surrender. Jokes bloom in whispers, about rations, about boots, about the mud that seems alive. Laughter cracks open the silence. Brief but real, a spark against the endless dark. Humor becomes a weapon, sharper than steel, because it breaks despair into smaller, bearable pieces. You realize that even here, joy survives in tiny flames, and you wonder softly, why does a shared laugh feel stronger than the echo of artillery? Shifts and rotations. A few days forward, a few days back. This is the rhythm of survival. You march away from the front line, boots heavy, shoulders lighter, to billets behind the wire. Here, the world feels almost ordinary. A barn with straw beds, soup simmering in dented tins, the luxury of removing boots without fear. Yet rest is never pure. The guns still echo in your skull, and dreams are filled with bursts of noise. You know the relief is temporary, a pause rather than peace. and as you lie down on the straw, you whisper to yourself, "Is rest real when war is waiting?" Whispers of armistice. One morning, rumors float through the line like smoke. An armistice, a truce, a war's end. Soldiers trade whispers at the fire step, hope flickering behind cautious eyes. Can it be true? Some smile, some frown, some shake their heads, unwilling to believe until they hear the silence themselves. The thought of peace feels unreal, like a dream too fragile to touch. You imagine the guns going quiet, the sky no longer torn by shells, and deep inside you ask, when the fighting ends, will the silence feel like comfort, or will it echo with memories too loud to bear? Memory of the trenches years pass, and the earth grows grass where wire once cut the sky. The trenches soften, filled with rain, swallowed by soil, yet in memory they remain sharp, a landscape you carry within. You recall the mud, the letters, the songs, the thunder. You remember faces, some who returned, some who never did. History writes in books and monuments, but in your heart it writes in quieter ink. The taste of tea in a dented tin, the sound of a friend's laugh, the weight of silence after the barrage. And you wonder gently, what does it mean to truly come home? The quiet after the storm. And now, the trench fades into silence. The mud, the wire, the shadows, they all grow softer, like memories dissolving at the edge of a dream. The soldiers, once awake with fear, drift into the slow rhythm of breath, their thoughts wandering toward homes that wait and skies untouched by thunder. You, too, may feel that quiet now. The war of noise gives way to stillness, and the stillness becomes a shelter of its own. History has carried us through mud and fire, yet here, in this gentle moment, the only task is to rest. So let your heart slow, let your body grow heavy. The story of trenches and storms has been told, and now another story begins, the story of your own peace, carried softly into sleep. And so, the story of the trenches fades into quiet. The mud, the rain, the weight of waiting, all dissolve like mist at dawn. What remains is the simple truth that even in the harshest places, hope still flickers, fragile yet steady, guiding tired hearts through the dark. As you rest now, let the noise of history fall away. Let the images soften, like pages closing in a book. The soldiers of the past return to silence, and you too may return to calm. This has been a quiet telling from Mythoria, where history becomes a gentle companion for sleep. Breathe deeply, feel the stillness, and allow your mind to wander into dreams. Good night, and rest well.